Greetings. My name is Letitia Hensley, and I'm the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools Director of Family and Community Engagement. We are excited that you are joining us today and know you will gain great insight from this session. At the conclusion of today's session, please provide feedback so that we can continue to support you with amazing sessions that will be provided throughout the year. Now, without further ado, we'll turn it over to our presenters.
Good morning, families. Thank you so much for joining us for the Family Academy Virtual Coffee and Conversations. We are excited to be with you this morning to dig in and learn more about 3 key assessments within the district. We will be reviewing MVPA, iReady, and the DIBELS assessment. We have translation services available today. On your screen in the top right-hand corner, you'll see the Captions button. Once you click Captions, a drop-down will appear where you can select Show Live Captions and then select the language of your choosing. English is also available, as well as other top languages within the district. We will be using a Q&A today to engage, so if you have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A, and they will be answered during the question and answer session. And there will also be an FAQ document shared, and feel free to react for any presentations that you felt were just wonderful or new learning that you may have. I will drop our feedback form in the Q&A as well, but we are excited to hear from you and look forward to continuing to support you throughout your child's education. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Ryan Revak, who will be sharing about the MVPA assessment.
Thank you, Molly. Will you be pulling up the screens, or did you want me to pull up the screen?
If you can share your slides.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan Revak. I'm the Director of School Improvement and Data Integration. And the topic that I'll be discussing today is just understanding the MVPA benchmark assessment itself, just this assessment, and any parent reports that may be available for you once the assessment has taken place and we have all the data in here. So I do have a team that supports the work that we do here. Here are the rest of my team members. We all support the school improvement within schools and the use of data. And so if at any time you ever want to reach us, definitely you can see on this screen, we have our email addresses there. If you have any questions related to testing, related to the things that are going on, if you might be a part of the school improvement team within your building, and we are the team that works mostly with that. So we definitely like to make sure we're empowering parents, if they are on the school improvement team, to understand the working of the plan itself and how they can integrate themselves in there. So again, I leave all of my team members and their emails here, so you can reach us at any moment.
Ryan, if you could drop it into slideshow mode for us, please.
Oh, thank you. Yep, absolutely. So real quickly, just a getting to know you kind of thing, and you can put, I guess, interact with the chat as what will you be spending most of your spring break doing? Is it resting, playing games with the family, visiting other family members, so forth and so on? So I'll give you guys a quick second to put what you think you'll be doing at spring break, since it's right around the corner. I know we felt like we had spring break last weekend, and all of a sudden we're back to winter. Well, hopefully you had a chance to go ahead and respond to that in the chat or interact with the platform as to how you will be spending most of your spring break. So obviously our mission, and this is the mission obviously of our family and engagement, is to engage families to support student achievement in their home and in the schools and in the community by supporting families and understanding the balanced assessment system is what I'll be working with you today. I want to make sure that you understand how we at CMS integrate all the different assessments within our district. So you can see here is a graphic that we use in understanding our balanced assessment system. You can see that there are 5 main assessments that we give, and sometimes one assessment might cover two areas of this, but we have universal screeners. And so for those of you who your child takes the iReady diagnostic assessment, that is one of the universal screeners that we provide and have our students take. The second is DIBELS in kindergarten through third grade, and that is a state assessment that also gives us that. Now, both of those assessments also provide us with diagnostic information. So that information that we're able to glean from those assessments allows us to support students where they are in their learning. As we know, all students come in with a different level of understanding around the grade level content information. Now, what parents are mostly familiar with is obviously classroom assessments, the things that students are studying within the classroom, the exit tickets, the unit assessments, the midterm assessments, all of those are considered classroom assessments, and they're given on a very regular basis, once a week. They might have like small quizzes within that. Now, benchmark assessments, which is what we're going to be talking about today, the MBPA, which stands for Master Review Predictive Assessments, they're given, depending on the content and or grade level, only 2 to 3 times per year. So there's definitely a lot of information covered within those assessments, and they help us to understand where students are in relationship to their mastery of the standards that we're teaching. And that also helps us as a district and school teachers and school leaders to understand how are students going to eventually perform on the summative assessment, which would be their end of grade EOG and or end of course EOC assessments. So we deliver all of these assessments, and each assessment plays a different role in the understanding that we have so that we can support students as best possible within the instructional day. So who takes the MBPA? In our district, students in grades 3 through 12 will take it in either math, reading, or science. Now, science is only taken in 5th grade, 8th grade, and then those students who are taking biology in high school. The math and reading will be taken from 3rd grade all the way to 8th grade. And then depending on high school, what course you're in. So we have it for the Math 1 course, the Math 3 course, and the English 2 course, as well as the biology, which I said earlier. Those are the EOC courses. All students taking in those grade levels or taking those courses will take the MBPA. Most of them will take it 3 times a year. However, our high schools, they are mandated to take a midterm as part of their grade. So instead of giving them another test, the midterm serves as that mid checkpoint, which we would be giving it to all of the other students who don't have a midterm as a part of their course. And then the assessment measures how students are learning and mastering the content standards, how well they're doing within those. So the main report that we do send home to families is known as an individual student report that comes out several days after we close our assessment window. We have the company that builds our assessments. They do a large analysis on all of the information. And then once the information has been analyzed, they then drop it into they drop a file into our platform, in which now parents will be able, families will be able to get a report sent home once the schools have those within their platform as well. So what I'm going to do next is just go over the report itself. So hopefully if you've already seen this report home, as your child may be taking this, if they're in those grade levels and or courses, you've seen it, and then we'll just dig in a little bit more as to how to read this. And so here it just explains that what it is. It's generated by the MBPA assessment. We always have our schools within 2 weeks after the MBPA assessment window closes. They should be sent home in some form, whether electronically and or a paper copy is sent home to the parent. And the report is currently right now only in English. So here's what the report looks like. Here's an example of a 4th grade. And then you can see there's lots of different sections within here. So we'll talk about each of the sections one by one. So the first part is just saying, what is the grade level and what assessment are we giving? So we can see here that this is the 24-25 benchmark. These benchmarks are built brand new for every single assessment, so we don't reuse those. And you can see here that this is the 4th grade, and it's the first administration, so it'd be the first test that they're taking, which normally happens for most students around end of October, early November, except for some of our high school students who are on a different assessment window. The second part talks about the student, the teacher, the school information, and then to the right side, it's talking about how does the assessment vendor who we get the analysis from make their projections, and what do these projections mean? So for example, a 2, if you see a 2, they're saying that at this point, the student is not showing proficiency in the standards that we're seeing, that were taught, that were assessed on this assessment. 3 becomes grade level proficient, and then you have 4s and 5, which is college and career ready, solid command of the standards. We would get an overall score of the whole assessment, where that would put a child, and then you get the different domains or standards that were taught. We call them standard domains. For example, NF1, which stands for fractions, there might be several NF1 standards within the assessment, and so covering all of those, it then gives you the same information. What predictive achievement level might a student have on any of the different domains that are there? Then as you move to the right, we notice that there are different types of questions that are presented. Most of what we call summative, or the EOG or EOC, most of the assessment lives in what we call a DOK2, which usually requires the student to apply their skills of what they're learning. Rather than DOK1, there are some questions that are like that on obviously this assessment as well as the end of grade, but they're basically recall questions. So like if somebody said, what is 5 plus 7? That's a recall. By memory, you would have what 5 plus 7 is, and you would answer that, versus applying it would be more put into a word problem context, and now they have to, through the word context, realize what do they have to do. Do they have to add? Do they have to subtract? That part is uncertain, so that's the applying of the skill. And there are some depth of knowledge level 3 type questions, but very little on this assessment and very little obviously on the EOG, which requires students to have like a plan of action of how they're going to attack a problem, which is slightly different than just applying the skill level. And then finally, we get the comparison information, which means this helps parents to understand that 13 questions correct is what a child had to answer in order to be proficient on this assessment. And then how many questions did the child answer correctly? And then obviously the difference would just be there were 11 questions away, 13 minus 2, from being proficient on this assessment. So this is the main report that we require as a district from the Office of Accountability that is sent home to parents within 2 weeks from an assessment window being sent home. And again, there might be different methods or modalities with which how schools may be sharing this information. I know some might send it home on report cards. There may be other ways that they're being shared. You would definitely want to reach out to your school to find out how they are sharing this if your child is taking this, just so you're aware of when it's coming in and how it's coming in. So this is just reflection questions, right? Like what would be the benefits of having this report as a parent? There's ways that you might want to use this report once it comes through. I know that the person who's coming after me, the director of MTSS, Chantilly Guy, who's talking about iReady, that is the connection piece right now that we have in our district between once an assessment is given, like an MBPA assessment, and how to support your child at home. It comes from the platform that we have right now, the iReady platform, because 2 reasons. 1, when teachers look at all of this information, they can assign lessons to the child within the iReady platform that the child can then work on either in school and or at home. And as a parent, you can see how they're doing on those specific things. So as a teacher, they can be saying, okay, I know that fractions are really important, and NF1 is like the starting of the fractions. I might start there as a teacher to say I need the student to get full command of NF1 before we get command of NF2. Then what they would be doing is they would be putting some lessons in iReady that the student will be working on to get mastery of that. And then that's a way that as a parent you can monitor that they're completing those teacher assigned lessons, that they're gaining more mastery of that. The second way is obviously when a student takes the iReady, and I know Chantilly will be talking more about this and you'll get more information, their diagnostic assessment puts them within what we call their zone of proximal development, which basically means what they're ready to start learning. And it builds a my path for them. So also they're filling in their learning about where they currently are with that part of the program as well. And so you'll get more information related to that, but that is how we connect the two pieces between any assessment, especially a large scale assessment like the benchmark, the MBPA that we're giving. We are now using the district adopted iReady platform that we've purchased to help us with stuff that we're working on in the classroom and support of where the student is in their learning and how to best support them. But also this is something that can be used at home and that parents have access to see how their child is doing within that. The last thing I'm going to talk about really quickly, and this is not something that gets sent home, but if you're a parent who wants a little bit more detail about the assessment itself, the MBPA assessment, meaning how did your child perform on this, this is called an item analysis report. And you can request this from the teacher to say, can you please send me my child's item analysis report? Not that we can send home the assessment because the assessment is it has a copyright because of the vendor that we're purchasing it from, but there is other information that goes just a step further than the report that I just showed you, which means here you can actually see the standard. Everything at the top is the standard. So this is 5P22, 5P23. And then if you go down, you can see that if you get a 1 out of 1, that means the child got that question correct on the assessment versus 0 out of 1. This is the question that the child missed. So if you wanted to go just a step further, you can use this because now we're seeing at a different level that if I look at this standard, 5P 2.1, you could see that the child scored 4 out of the 5 questions correctly and is doing really well in this standard. But you can see here, this is where I only got 2 out of 5 questions correct, and this is where I need more practice. And so if you're trying to tie in that connection piece between how to best support your child after an assessment, this gives you a little bit different information around the standards that need to be mastered. Also, not just like the predictive score, but like how many questions did my child actually get right out of how many questions were given on that assessment. And that can then help you to continue to support your child at home using the iReady platform or other ways to do that. So I know you probably already saw this slide related to the feedback from Molly. And I guess at this time, here's one way you can contact my team. Right here is our team's email. I know earlier in the slide I gave you each of my team members and their specific emails, but if you ever need to reach the team because they all support this one email, that is the best way to do that. And then at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Molly. If there's any questions I need to answer, we can go ahead and address those.
One question that we have is, what does the overall MBPA score mean? Is it out of 100?
So on the slide that should I pull up my slides again to reference that?
That would be great.
Okay. So if the question is addressing this document right here, then no, this is not out of 100. Meaning, for example, the way that like in all of our assessments, for the most part, the first one will be less questions. Meaning if I'm a 3rd grader and I'm taking the reading assessment, what we're doing is we're giving them all of the standards that they're going to see in literature and informational text and so forth, but the test may only be like 25 questions. Then when we get to the second one, the test might be 30 questions. So the test is getting longer because we're also preparing our students for the end of grade, which we know is going to be in the 40 questions. And then the last assessment might be 40 or 40 something questions. So as we're going through each assessment, the test is getting longer and obviously is getting harder because as the kids are growing within their knowledge, we're getting them ready for the actual assessment. But the scores here, these twos and all of that, it might be like when they make an analysis, they might say it's related to a correlation report between our EOGs. So the people who do all of this work have state data and how kids did on this assessment or something similar to this assessment and how they also performed on the state assessment. So then they're looking to see, well, if kids are scoring like 60% of the test correct, we notice that kids at 60% are kind of landing at a level 3, which is grade level proficient. And so they're using the correlation between state data that they have and data that they have on their benchmark assessments that they build for us to build in the correlations to give us the predictability. I hope I answered the question that was asked, whereas, yes, the test is still given like 0 to 100%, but each of those ranges would mean something different. Like obviously a 5 would be somewhere like, you know, they're scoring 90 to 100% of the test correct, and then so forth and so on.
Thank you. That is
Absolutely.
some great information. We have another question. Why do students need so many kinds of assessment? Well, I already measured this information.
In one way, iReady does measure, it does give us understanding of what students know as far as their understanding of certain content levels. The difference between like a universal screener and then a benchmark is that a benchmark is laid out and designed in exactly the same way that students will be assessed at the end of the year. So every assessment, an iReady assessment might be a lot more of what we call like DOK1 type questions. Remember how we talked about there's different types of questions. DOK1 is more basic recall. So it's going to help us to understand if the student has those basic recall information. But an EOG is going to limit, a lot of it is going to limit the DOK2. And so we make sure that we're providing them an assessment that is aligned with what types of questions and in the layout of the kinds of questions they're going to see, because that helps teachers to better plan for their instruction when they're going through it. Another reason is we don't see the questions, for example, on an iReady assessment. That's not something that teachers have preview of. The student takes the assessment on their own, and because it's an adaptive assessment, it's adapting based off of whether the child is answering the question correct or the child is answering the question wrong. So everybody will be taking a different assessment in iReady, even though they're all in the same classroom. Whereas this is one assessment every student takes and it's the exact same assessment within the classroom. So then it helps the teacher to understand where are their next moves as a teacher to best support the learning in the classroom. But it also helps them to think about pulling in, we call it triangulation of data, looking at the data points from here, looking at the data points from the iReady assessment, looking at the data points from their classroom assessments to say, where am I seeing gaps in the learning and how do I best support the child? I hope that was a good answer.
Great information. Thank you.
Yep.
Another question that we have from our families is, where can I find this information on the CMS website?
So on the CMS website currently, we've just built in the Office of Accountability a benchmark website. So it has a lot of the information that I just covered. However, I know that most people don't go to CMS and then go to the accountability department, as we're kind of known as the testing department. However, I have shared this. I have shared the link to that with learning and teaching and the family engagement. And so I'm not sure, Molly, have you guys already lifted this within your the way parents access the family engagement?
We are have it included, and it will be available on the family resource page from the CMS Family Engagement team, Family and Community Engagement. So I will make sure that shared within the FAQ document. Great information, Ryan.
Perfect.
We have one final question. Is
So
there any information regarding how children have improved as a result of follow-up actions taken by these movements being implemented?
meaning if I was to look at the first administration to the second administration to see how the child has improved.
I believe so.
Okay. I mean, so one obviously would be looking at your own individual child's report from first administration to second administration to third administration to then see whether there are gains in the different areas within the achievement levels that have been used through the analysis and predicted in here. If it's more in general, I'm not sure if the question is more like in general, are we noticing a increase in students performing at a different level within that? So if that is the question, more like in general, what are we noticing? Not just individually for my student. We do provide schools. Each school gets what's called a data report out deck, in which they get a lot of data that we analyze at our level to help them go through and see, are we noticing gains from benchmark 1 to benchmark 2? What are we noticing? And so definitely, like I said, if you're on that school improvement team, that should be one piece of data that they should be sharing during one of the school improvement meetings after each of those windows. So meaning after the first window, when the schools get these data decks, they should be looking at this data deck within their school improvement team to then talk about what are we noticing based off of the things that we've put in place related to all of this information. So I would definitely reach out to your school if you're not a part of the school leadership team or the school improvement team, because that's information that that's there for them to discuss with any parents, to talk about how their school is improving based off of the actions that they're putting. For example, right now, my team and I are leading 3 days of which all the schools are coming to us and they're analyzing their data because we just closed the window not too long ago and got the data, and they're putting actions in place for the next 60 days, kind of now until the EOGs or the end of the year testing, to say here's what the data is telling us, and it's suggesting these are the things that we need to continue to improve upon, and these are the things we're already doing really well, and so we'll keep doing those so that they start to see increases in student outcomes. So I think that the answer is twofold. If it's related to your individual student, it would be this report here, just layered 3 times, where you can see any kinds of improvements in the data. And if it's more like holistic for the whole school, then I would suggest reaching out to the school, as we do provide them the large picture of what they're seeing based off of this data point.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ryan.
You're
Our
welcome.
final question for today before we transition will be, can you please explain what DOK2 is?
Absolutely. So DOK is short for depth of knowledge. So depth of knowledge 2 requires a student to apply their skills and or concepts. So meaning if I already understand multiplication, for example, if I've already gotten, the teacher has helped me to understand my times tables, and I can do 4 times 7 or 4 times 8. I can already do those. That would be a depth of knowledge level 1 type question. If something was presented to me and it just had, 4 times 3 is 12, or even said 4 times blank is 12, right? Or whatever it would have, that kind of same formula, that's basically a DOK1. All I have to do is recall the fact of that. However, a depth of knowledge level 2 question might say something more like, Danny is getting ready to have a soccer game. There's 20 people who are coming to play in the soccer game. He wants to set up teams where each team is going to have 5 people, 5 people on each team. How many teams can he create? So you can see, like, we're still kind of working within like multiplication and division. However, it's presented in a way that is asking me now to apply the skill of what I know from either multiplication and division into that type of question. I hope that was a good suffice
Wonderful. That is
answer.
some great
Okay.
information
Absolutely.
and a wonderful example. Thank you so much, Ryan, for your time. Families, at this time, we are going to move into our second assessment that we'll be reviewing. We will be sharing and learning more about the iReady assessment with the Director of MTSS, Ms. Chantelia Guy.
All right. So morning, everyone. Hopefully you can see my screen. I'm going to put it in slideshow. Molly, is it coming up?
I am not seeing it on my screen at this time.
Okay. Let me try
There we
it
go.
now.
Yep,
Oh,
slideshow
it's there.
mode.
Okay, perfect. All right. So good morning and welcome to the session on iReady. I am Chantelia Guy, Director of MTSS and CMS. And for those that may not know, MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. And one of the things I love for everyone to understand is that MTSS is a framework for continuous school improvement. And so this is where we're focusing on our data to help determine how to address our school-wide, grade level, class level, and individual student needs. So iReady is our universal screener that helps determine what our students know, where they may be having some instructional gaps, and how we can best support them through their pathways. And Ryan mentioned quite a few of that in his session. So I'm just going to tag on to some of that so you can see how that supports. So we'll talk a little bit today on how you're able to support and check your child's progress at home. All right, here is my team. I have a small but mighty team. Dr. Allison Gunner and Dr. Sony Anderson support our elementary schools. Securia Lawler supports our middle and K-8, and Anasia Turner supports our high schools. All right, for our activity this morning, really quick, as tomorrow is the day of love, what is your favorite candy for Valentine's Day? If you can drop that in the chat, just so we can see what everyone likes. Let's see. I like chocolate, so I will say I'm a chocolate person.
And Chantelia, I'll monitor and read to you if you want to minimize your teams. We are seeing that.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so hopefully everybody has their favorites of what they like to have for candies. I'm sure some of you will be getting some beautiful roses as well, as we all deserve to be loved. So we'll go ahead and move on just for time's sake. So quickly, our time together, we're going to learn how to read the iReady parent reports and understand how to support our students at home. So first things first, Molly is providing you with this slide deck so that you have access to this. Make sure that you are using the login at the very top. And then I've also included some samples. I was going to go to it. It does take a little bit, but you have access to go in here for all the grade levels. Hopefully, many of you have been able to see your child work on iReady lessons at home. And then some of you may have wondered what those assessments look like and what the instruction is like for them. Well, now you have a chance to go into the sample logins. These are demo accounts that are open for a set period of time, but this will give you a glimpse into how your students would take the assessment. As Ryan mentioned, iReady is an adaptive assessment. And when we say it's adaptive, that means it starts everybody on the grade level in which they're currently in. And from that point, what it does is actually will adjust to how they're responding to the questions. If they're continuing to miss a lot of the questions that are on grade level, then it'll go down. If they're continuing to answer those with ease, then it'll go up to the next level of complexity for them. So this will give you a chance to actually see how the assessment adjusts for learning, but then also it gives you an opportunity to go into the instructional piece so that you can actually see what they're doing in the past at home. And so we're going to talk about how those paths will really show us like what support is being provided to them, either in the classroom or at school. So after they take the assessment, Ryan had mentioned that there is the opportunity for you to see, and he shared with you a report that you saw for MVPAs. So here is a sample family report that you would have gotten also beginning of year for the first screening window. So you are able to go in from your child's login to review your student's progress from their screener. So here is an example of one listed here. So this time you will have 2 bars. This is the first bar from a BOY assessment, and then now you're going to see another bar when you go in to view your child's report, because you'll see the comparison of where they started at the BOY to where they are now for MOY. So here it shows their placement and scale score, and then also talks about the needs improvement. So right now this student is at a 458, which shows that that student is under the 25th percentile. And these are national norms. These are not CMS norms. So this is in comparison to others in the same grade level across the United States. So when we look at where this student tested in the beginning of the year, phonological awareness was not assessed because this student was actually a second grade student. When you get down to the other domains in which they assessed, it shows how they were doing. So right now, high frequency words is an area in which this student did well. They surpassed their level. So the other areas of phonics, vocabulary, comprehension with literature, and informational text are key places for improvement. So Ryan mentioned instructional paths. When we talk about the instructional paths for the students in iReady, those My Paths will become the needs improvement domains for your child to be working in. So this is where it will start. So it helps to close those gaps so that they become more comfortable and be able to master within those areas. Over here, it also provides you with information on each of those domains. That means what is it that they need to know how to do, so that way you will know how to support. So at any time you need to reach out to your teacher for additional insight on the progress, you can do that. This is a sample report, so these are nobody's names in CMS. But the biggest thing is discussing the results with your child. So I will go into this document because it does help, and hopefully you're able to see my screen that it opened up. This gives you how you're understanding that diagnostic when it comes home, that report from your child's teacher. So again, I just talked about the graph, so you'll start to see that. It tells you what that means, shows you how they're doing in the specific learning areas, and how they're progressing over time. And then it'll also talk to you about those students that are performing below grade level in certain areas and where you can actually support and target some of that assistance for them. Now, biggest thing is making sure that we're providing that support at home, because that is one of the key areas in which we can help our child to be successful when it comes to in-classroom support. And then also we have a family center, and I'm going to go into that a little bit later for you. So at home, you want to make sure that your child is logging in through the CMS class link, and they should be able to do that. If you do not have access to their logins, just make sure that you reach back out to your child's teacher to get access, because at home, they'll be working more so on a lot of the My Path lessons. When you see teacher assigned, those are usually probably some of the lessons that they are working on in the classroom. As Ryan mentioned from the MVPAs, and they're looking at particular standards, the teachers may work to assign some of those particular lessons that's on a standard to help support with continuing to catch them up if they had some gaps within other assessments. One of the key things that we also like to talk about, as Ryan mentioned, is data triangulation. Yes, we do a lot of assessing our students, but one data point doesn't always tell the story. So because this is an adaptive assessment, and MVPAs is really targeted more at truly what our students might be learning at the time. So this gives you an opportunity to see various types of learning our students are able to understand and comprehend, in addition to the next piece that you have coming up after me, which is DIBELS. So that helps us to see where our foundational skills are as well, and so how we can support them there. So again, make sure that you're logging in from the class link so that you'll be able to see. Now, you don't have a login. You have to go and view all of your information from your child's login from home. Now, one of the key things is always each day, if you can go in and check your child's progress. So you will have them to log in to their class link, and then you will look at the My Progress section here. In the My Progress, this is going to be something key. This will let you know how much time your student is on task within lessons, how many lessons they are passing, and then their math lesson or reading lesson, their streak of lessons they've passed in a row. So this is really looking at the completed work. One of the key things as far as information with iReady and research shows that students that do at least 30 to 45 minutes a week in both of the subject areas will start to show progress throughout. So this is helping them to close the gaps if they are doing this consistently. Some of this may be done in the classroom, and some also may be done at home. It doesn't all have to be done at the same time. Some of us may only need about 10 or 15 minutes per night on either reading or math, and we'll talk about how you can set that up for your students at the end. So again, here is something that'll show you how you can check your child's progress to see what they're doing. And then this, again, just explaining everything that you'll need to know. And again, this is all on the personalized instruction is what you'll have as far as that progress. The teacher assigned lessons will not be showing within that piece for you, because that way the teacher has that access to check on the information there. Now, how can I help at home? One of the things is what we call our fridge tips. This is one of those resources, and hopefully it's loading up for you, because you will have access to the presentation and will be able to go into a Padlet that has a lot of things that you'll be able to pull from. But our fridge tips is something that's going to be very helpful for you as the parent to kind of help with it, supporting our students to be successful in making sure that they're getting their lessons completed at home. And hopefully it's going to load up. We did have the power go out a little bit ago, and so it's back on. So things are kind of moving a little slow. So let me see if I can get it to load. And of course it won't load, but it's okay. All right, so I'll just go from the screenshot. So biggest thing is, one, making sure that our students have what they need: a quiet place, a device that works, and then some paper and pencil. And that's just so if they need to practice, especially in any math problems, if they need to work their problems out. Make sure they're focused. One of the key things that we also notice when they do take the assessment for BOY and MOY, something we see is called rushing. It gives us rush flags. So if our student is rushing through the assessment, it's not going to give us a true picture of how they're performing on that assessment. So we want them to really and truly focus so they can do their absolute best, so we can truly see where their instructional growth is, or where there's opportunities for more learning. Make sure that you sit down and encourage them also, because this is something that's going to be key in making sure that they really pay attention and really do their very best on these lessons. So just supporting them and celebrating them are the other sections that are also included on the fridge tips. And you'll have access to that when it comes to looking at the engagement supports. So hopefully you'll be able to see my screen. Let me just go from here because it looks like it's not showing. This is a schedule that you can create at home. So as I mentioned, one of the things, you don't necessarily have to do all 30 minutes in a day. So if you do 30 minutes to 45 minutes for reading and math, map that out, break that up a little bit so that it gives your child an opportunity to work a few minutes towards a lesson within their path. The path are assigned to them, as stated before, based on how they performed on the screener and the areas that says needs improvement. Okay, so those are the My Path lessons that are working because it wants to have your students to close those gaps. And so they're going to provide lessons that build upon getting them to being on level for those particular domains. You will have access to our Padlet. The Padlet from iReady is where they have some parent resources for you. So this will be very helpful for you to go in to actually see what iReady is. It has videos that will give you an opportunity to pull up and kind of see what else you have questions about. Here is the documents that I mentioned as far as the fridge tips, and then also the Resource Center is here for you, and that was one of the screenshots I showed you earlier. Gives you more about ask questions, any technical support, some of the guides and things that you'll need, making sure that you can have a video to understanding the diagnostic, in addition to the logins that I provided for you. And all the resources that I've shared with you about how to make sure that you know what that iReady results report stands for. But one key thing here is to have language here. So if you need to change to another language, you are welcome to toggle over here to the drop downs, find the language that may support you best at home so that you are able to have this information in your native language. So our contact information is here, MTSS specialist at cms.k12.nc.us. If you do have any questions and just need to know how to help support or direct at home. But one of the key things I do want us to remind us is that this is not for a grade. It really should be about how can I help support my student. And so this is where we're trying to use all of the data that we are giving to our students and helping to see what that instruction can close the gaps. That is one of the key things about having iReady with the instructional lessons that they provide, because it also gives opportunity for additional resources to support students with what they need. All right. So,
Wonderful.
yes, any questions?
We do have a few questions. So one family has asked, are the iReady lessons automatically assigned based off of our child's individual iReady assessment?
Yes, that is correct. So the lessons pathways are assigned based on how they perform on the diagnostic.
Wonderful. How should families work with their child on this at home? Is there an easy way to have those conversations?
So it's more of having them to talk about when you're going into your child's progress, and that's what I showed you guys earlier. When you go in there, one of the good things you can do is just say, hey, tell me about your progress. And what do you think is your struggle? Because yes, we are the parents and we may not necessarily know all of those things, but you can ask the questions because they may be comfortable talking to you about it. And the good thing is you can always reach back out to the teacher and say, hey, so I had conversations and they would really like some more support on, I'll say, main idea. So if it is main idea, what else can I do at home? If there are no additional things that I see on my sheet for my parent report, what else can I do and how can I get some more resources to support them at home?
Wonderful. One question that we have is, previously, I know my student would bring home something similar on the MAP form. Why was this switch made from the MAP assessment to the iReady assessment?
So that I don't have the answer for. That was more of our district and cabinet level leaders, and they wanted to look at something that included an instructional piece to it. And so with MAP, it does provide us with what our students did, where they landed as far as their skill gaps. but it did not provide additional instructional pieces where you could actually do a lot more here, where iReady does offer.
Wonderful, thank you. My student has an IEP. Will they receive any accommodations on this assessment?
Yes. So if they do have an IEP, it is just like MAP and EOG. So anyone with accommodations, they should receive those same accommodations for the assessment. So if there's a read aloud part to it, there are also where headphones should be provided for our children to be able to take the assessment, since there is some reading at the very beginning. And you'll see when you go into some of those sample logins that I gave you, it will talk you through kind of showing you how it navigates through the platform for them, meaning it will say, here's your calculator. If this is the way in which you get a question like this is how you respond. So that is there. But yes, anybody that has accommodations should receive those accommodations.
Thank you. Um, Within this assessment, are will students be progress monitored?
So because these are instructional, unless they are doing an intervention related to it, then they will be progress monitored. Otherwise, it is the instructional assessment that goes to support the gaps within their small group instruction. But if they need a formal supplemental or intensive, which is tier 2 and tier 3 intervention, then additional progress monitoring will be provided.
Thank you. We have another question. How soon are the test results available after the student has taken their test or after the window closes?
So usually, it should be once our window closes and our makeup time. Then, so I think we just finished up on February 4th. So we should be starting to go in to our students' login using the code that was provided for BOY to be able to see our students' results. And I think Ryan and his team did share some information about parent reports for checking iReady last week. So hopefully you will start to see information come from your child's teacher soon.
Thank you. What if a student knows the concept but did not do well at the time of the assessment?
So that is something where the teacher, so this is just like that teacher and the triangulation of data for our students. So that is where the teacher would actually go in to look and see how our students are performing, and maybe most of their activities and lessons might be teacher assigned. So that way that they're working on areas that they truly need versus the My Path that may not align to what they already know.
Thank you. Is the iReady platform going to be available over the summer?
From our understanding, it will be available for this summer. But there will be a time frame in which it does have to shut down so we can do our re-rostering. So, and also because we're moving into a new, another system, so we have to allow for the transfer of data over. So it will be shutting down so that we can re-roster any of our students that are newly enrolling as well as the staff that are enrolling.
If a student scored high on the iReady assessment, will the lessons continue at a higher level?
So that will be something where they have to be assigned a different level of assessments, and those will be done by the teacher. But we are working with classrooms and schools across the district to actually look at some of those challenging lessons that they can provide for students. So we do have those schools reaching out to us for that.
Wonderful. We have had a few questions asking for the code one more time. Would you mind sharing that slide once again and talking through how to log in with the code?
Okay. All right, so here, can you guys see, Molly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Bridge
All
tips.
right.
Yep.
Yep. So, and then the code, hopefully you can see I'm on the sample family report slide. For families report directions. So there's digital share that has been enabled for us. So this allows for you, instead of them printing out, so you will need the code to access the report. So here is the code, the CXNG5Q. And so when you go actually into your student's path, you will be able to actually have an opportunity to put that code in on the main screen when your child logs in so that you'll be able to get their report. And the school should have sent out directions about that at beginning of the year. So the same way it was for BOY, it is the same for MOY.
Wonderful. That's some great information. Another question that we've had come through is, can I access the Family Center through my child's login?
You can actually access it through this presentation. And also through your child's login as well. So the Family Center is right here in the corner, so it will take you to that page. But that Padlet that I shared as my last slide, you can access it from there as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shantilia. This has been such wonderful information for our families. Families, I have dropped the code for iReady into the Q&A for you to access easily, as well as resharing the slide deck from today's session. We thank you so much for sharing that additional information about the iReady assessment.
Thank you.
Before we transition back through for our final presentation, I do want to just make sure that all of our families are aware of the translation services that are available today. So if you joined us a little bit late, please make sure that you're aware if you need translation services. We do have the captions button in the top right-hand corner. From there, you would select show live captions and then select the language of your choosing if this support is needed. And as a reminder, we are engaging through the Q&A, so please click on Q&A. It'll open a chat box for you, as well as any reactions that you may have. We'll publish a full FAQ document from today's session, along with the video on the Family Academy On Demand page. I will add the link within the Q&A shortly. And finally, as you finish the sessions, if you've had a chance to engage with us and have feedback to share, we want to hear from you. All feedback received will be entered into a raffle for a $100 Visa gift card. The winner of the gift card will be contacted via email on Friday, February 28th. I will add this to the Q&A as well. Now, without any further ado, we are excited to continue our Coffee and Conversation series and know that our next group is going to have some vital and informative information to share. We will be hearing from Miss Amanda Smith from Learning and Teaching Elementary Education, who will be sharing more about the DIBELS assessment.
Good morning, everybody. I hope that you all are doing well. It's nice to be here today. I'm excited to get to share this information with you. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. All right. Well, let's get started. So today we'll be learning about the DIBELS assessment and M-Class parent reports. Like she said, my name is Amanda Smith, and I'm one of the ELA curriculum specialists. So just to frame our conversation today, I would like to highlight that Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools, we value the education of the whole child, and we use a variety of data to assess student progress and set instructional goals that best support the needs of all learners. All right, so let's jump in. What is DIBELS? Well, it is an acronym for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. DIBELS is a universal literacy screener, and it's used by schools to assess key areas of children's reading development. It's quick, it's research-based, and it's designed to measure foundational literacy skills, such as recognizing letter sounds, reading fluently, and understanding what is read, that comprehension piece. So the purpose of DIBELS is really to help teachers identify students who may need extra support in specific areas of reading. So by spotting potential challenges early, we can provide targeted instruction to help your child succeed. It's important to know that DIBELS is not a comprehensive or diagnostic test. It doesn't give a full picture of your child's reading abilities. Instead, it acts as a tool to monitor progress over time, ensuring that your child is on the right track with their reading growth and development. All right, in CMS, all kindergarten through third grade students take the DIBELS assessment 3 times per year. They take it once in the fall, once in the winter, and once in the spring. So with this assessment, how do we use it? Like, how do we use the data? So DIBELS is a multi-purpose tool. Teachers use the DIBELS information in a variety of ways. The results help teachers design targeted instruction to meet the specific needs of students, from remediation to enrichment and enhancement. DIBELS information also helps teachers monitor student progress over time, like we talked about earlier, and ensure that the supports are working. So what interventions or what supports are we putting in place, and how do we know that they're working? We use this tool to progress monitor. So you may be curious as to what exactly does DIBELS measure? Well, it measures a variety of literacy development skills, from letter naming fluency to phoning segmentation fluency, nonsense word fluency, all the way to reading comprehension. And then North Carolina requires 2 additional subtests, oral language and vocabulary. So these are not included in the composite score for each student, which is the culminating score for each student. The chart at the bottom lists the subtest names and the grade levels in which they are assessed. Please note that 4th grade Read to Achieve students will take the assessments. However, in grades 4 and 5, the assessment is only for students in need of an intervention, and these are students that receive additional reading support outside of the regular reading time. All right, so let's look at these measures and subtests a little more deeply. The first one is letter naming fluency, and it's measured through a 1-minute assessment given to kindergarten and 1st grade students. So students are presented with a page of upper and lowercase letters arranged in a random order, and students are asked to name as many letters as they can within 1 minute. Letter naming fluency is a strong predictor of later reading success. Beyond reading skills, it also offers insights into students' executive functioning and working memory abilities, and it helps teachers understand how students process and retain information. All right, so we're going to watch just a quick little snippet of the assessment.
Tell me the names of as many letters as you can. When I say begin, start here and go across the page. Point to each letter and tell me the name of that letter. If you come to a letter you don't know, I'll tell it to you. Put your finger on the first letter. Ready? Begin.
All right. Let's look at the next subtest. So our next subtest is phoning segmentation fluency. And this assessment is given to students in kindergarten and 1st grade as well. It's a 1-minute assessment in which words are orally presented to the students, and they're asked to verbally produce the individual phonemes or the sounds of that word. For example, if the teacher asks you what sounds you hear in the word sat, then you would respond at. So phoneme segmentation fluency offers insight into a student's level of phonological awareness, and phonological awareness is the ability to recognize and work with sounds in spoken language. For example, like hearing and playing with rhyming words, syllables, and individual phonemes or sounds in words. All right, so let's watch this snippet.
I am going to say a word. After I say it, you tell me all the sounds you hear in the word. So if I say the word miss, you would say if. If I say the word low, you would say oh.
All right. Let's look at our next subtest. So nonsense word fluency, and this is given to students from kindergarten through third grade. Nonsense word fluency is a measure of alphabetic principle. Students are presented with nonsense words, and they're asked to produce either the entire word by reading it, like the word vog, or individual sounds such as v, ah, g. The nonsense word fluency assessment, it assesses basic knowledge of letter sound correspondence without influence from vocabulary or sight word knowledge. So this subtest assesses students' understanding of phonics and the ability to apply letter sound relationships when reading. So they're reading the nonsense words, either whole words or sounding out the sounds that they know. Let's watch a quick clip.
Look at this word. It's a make-believe word. Watch me read the word. Ah, ha. I can say the sounds of the letters ah, or I can read the whole word, ha. Your turn to read a make-believe word. Read this word the best you can. Make sure you say any sounds you know. That's right. The sounds are or lum.
All right. Now let's look at word reading fluency. It's another subtest that's administered in kindergarten through grade 3. It is also a 1-minute measure in which students accurately and fluently read lists of grade appropriate high incidence words that are out of context, so they're just by themselves. Word reading fluency helps identify students with poor sight word and irregular word reading skills that other subtests often miss. And here's an example of the assessment.
Please read from this list of words. Start here and go across the page. When I say begin, point to each word and read it the best you can. If you get stuck, I will tell you the words so you can keep reading. Put your finger on the first word. Ready? Begin. So, they, is, we, it.
Right. All right, oral reading fluency. So the oral reading fluency subtest is administered in grades 1st through 3rd, 1 through 3. We also can give it in 4 and 5 as well if needed. But students are asked to read grade level passage for 1 minute. The oral reading fluency assessment provides insight into a child's ability to read the text accurately and automatically so that they can focus on understanding what they're reading. Like we're really working on decoding the words and reading the words so that it frees up their cognitive space to actually think about what's happening in the text. So that is the oral reading fluency, and we'll watch a snippet.
Please read this out loud. If you get stuck, I will tell you the word so you can keep reading. When I say stop, I may ask you to tell me about what you read, so do your best reading. Start here. Bobby, ready?
Hey. All right, reading comprehension. This is the Maze assessment. And this assessment measures reading comprehension in grades 2 through 5. And the Maze Reading Comprehension Assessment asks students to read a passage and insert missing words from a bank of choices. So you can see here's like the beginning of a passage, and then they have a bank, like 3 choices here, and then they have to choose the correct word that make sense in the sentences, and then make the passage make sense. So the Maze Reading Comprehension Assessment offers insight into reading process that constitute like comprehension through the interpretation of text at the sentence level. So it really is what word would make sense in this passage within this sentence. And so that's how it measures the reading comprehension. All right, so the last 2 subtests are those additional subtests that I was telling you about that are on the M-Class platform. Now, the first one is oral language, and it's designed to evaluate a student's spoken language skills. And the teacher will say, "My sister's dress is yellow," and then the student will need to repeat the sentence exactly as they heard the sentence. So the oral language assessment is important because it's crucial for identifying potential literacy difficulties early on, as strong oral language skills are a foundational element for reading and writing. All right, and our last subtest that we're going to talk about is the vocabulary assessment. So it assesses students' understanding of important grade level words. The assessment may involve answering yes or no questions, filling in the blanks in sentences, or choosing the best definition of a word from a list of options. It just depends on the grade level as to what they're being asked to do. And this assessment is important because it provides a detailed picture of current vocabulary knowledge. This allows teachers to identify areas where students need more targeted support, and they can tailor their instruction to address specific vocabulary gaps. And this will enhance their reading comprehension and just their overall language skills. All right, well, when considering a student's DIBEL scores, there are 2 very important things that we want to remember. First, assessment outcomes are a snapshot of a moment in time. No single assessment or data point tells the whole story of a child's educational journey. We have to focus on trends over time, not just a single score. Okay. Secondly, we need to remember that we are chasing a moving target. So the DIBELS benchmarks are moving targets, like they change throughout the school year to align with the growing expectation of reading proficiency over time. So each assessment reflects the increasing complexity of skills that students are expected to develop over the course of the year. So a score that is at benchmark at the beginning of the year, that same score may not meet benchmark at middle of the year or end of the year. And this ensures that scores provide an accurate picture of whether a student is progressing toward the end of year reading goals. So we talked about DIBELS. Now let's talk about a little bit about M-Class. So M-Class is the computer platform that's designed to support the DIBELS assessment. So it provides teachers with the ability to administer DIBELS assessments electronically, and it generates immediate results. This enables teachers to, quickly respond, but also M-Class has parent reports. And so this is a great way for the teacher to communicate with the parents by creating these reports, because these reports are sent home and they tell parents exactly what the assessments are, what they assess, and how to help at home. So we're going to spend some time looking at that. Here is a sample of M-Class Home Connect report. So at the top right corner of the page, you'll find the student's name, grade level, and the date the assessment was administered. And then in this section, you'll see an explanation of why the student was assessed and what the results mean. It also indicates whether the student is meeting the benchmark expectations for that time of year. Now, on the right side of the report, there's a circle containing a number, and this is the student's composite score. The composite score represents the overall performance, like it's calculated from the combined results of all subtests, except for those last two we talked about. Remember, the vocabulary and the oral language. Those aren't calculated in the composite, but the others are. So below the composite score, you'll notice a colorful bar. And this bar serves as a key to interpret all these scores below, right? So blue indicates that the student is performing above benchmark on the subtest for that particular time of the year. Green indicates that they're performing at benchmark. Yellow represents below benchmark, and this indicates that the student needs support in that particular area. And then red represents well below benchmark, signaling that the student requires significant support in that area. So that's the key. And then we can kind of look a little even more deeply. If we look underneath the gray portion of the page, you'll see the subtests broken down. There's letter names, phonemic awareness, decoding, accurate and fluent reading. And you'll notice that there is a brief description of each, and then the score. So you'll see that for this student in letter names, they scored benchmark for letter names. For phonemic awareness, they scored above benchmark. And then here's their decoding scores. And then when we look at their fluency scores and word reading, they scored below benchmark. And then when we look at accuracy here and fluency, we see that they scored well below benchmark. So that automatically lets me know as a teacher that this student needs support in this fluency work, okay? Now, this is a first grade Home Connect report. If you had a student that's in an upper grade, you would have other subtests like MAZE on here as well. All right, so on the second page of the Parent Home Connect report, it offers suggested activities that are identified for your child based on their literacy profile. So these activities are engaging. You can, they're designed to be done at home, and they're designed to support and reinforce the specific skills that your child's learning. At the bottom of the page, you'll see where it says for more activities, visit our Home Connect site. You'll see a link there. And there's more activities. So this link will take you to this page. It takes you straight to the Amplify Home Connect webpage. And the web page looks like this and offers additional activities and a broader assortment of activities that you might want to try at home. I appreciate you listening. I wanted to show you one more thing. So you can find this information if you go to the families website on the CMS intranet, and then you go down to underneath Learning and Technology Resources for Families, you'll see Elementary School, Learning Beyond the School Day, and it will take you, when you click on it, it will take you to this page, and it has all the DIBELS M-Class assessment information, the assessment schedule, Home Connect resources, the user guide, the caregiver hub, and we'll post a video of this presentation soon so that you'll have that information as well. All right.
Thank you, Amanda. That is some great information and great resources that you have shared with our families this morning. We appreciate you taking the time. We do have a few questions
Okay.
to go over. So one question we've received is, can you elaborate on the difference between the iReady reading assessment and DIBELS? Are they evaluating the same skills?
Portions of it. We look at, we use them for different reasons. Just like we talked about earlier in the presentation, like this is just one data point. iReady's the same thing. So that they do measure portions of the same. So it's also a way that teachers can get a pulse check on how are they doing with their phonemic awareness? Are they able to blend the words and decode the words? So that is a way that they can kind of get a pulse check on how things are going.
Thank you. Are there practice assessments for the DIBELS that we can use as families at home?
No, not really. Now there's the activities in the Home Connect on that link, that resource. That's exactly what I would do because that's the work that's going to support them in being successful on the DIBELS assessment.
Are there other resources that could be used in addition to what's on the Home Connect letter to support my child's learning at home for these skills?
Yes, there are some other resources or ideas even on the family website, CMS internet, the internet, the website. So there's some things there. There are also some resources that teachers could send home, especially like for kindergarten, we have kinder first and second, we have some decodable readers. Where they can practice reading those words and practicing the patterns that they're learning. And so there are some things like that that they can use in addition to.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. The next question asks, where do I see the results of my child's assessment if I didn't receive the parent report?
You should have received the parent report after the middle of the year benchmark. So if you did not, they need to reach out to their school's teacher, their child's teacher.
Wonderful. All righty. I think that is all of our questions today. Amanda,
Okay.
thank you so much for your time and
Yes.
sharing such great information about the DIBELS assessment with our families today. As a
Perfect.
reminder to our families, today's session has been recorded and will be shared on the Family Academy On Demand webpage. Additionally, we are always interested to learn more about what is best to support you as a family member at home, and we look forward to hearing from you. So please share your feedback at the link that is in the Q&A. We are excited to continue to support you through this monthly series for Coffee and Conversation, and we hope that this has been beneficial and everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.